Hello, my fine friends. Welcome back to Destination Discourse. I feel like I need a drum roll. Stuart Butler here from Visit Beach, joined again, as ever, with Adam Stoker from Brand Revolt. And my voice is cracking because I'm a little sick. But
You
Brand
know,
Revolt,
it
Adam
pained
Stoker, how are you?
you. It pained you to say it the right way, but I
I
appreciate the
know.
effort that went into it, Stuart.
Yeah. You know what? We lost the shtick of you getting more excited every episode. Have you noticed that?
I kind of hit the ceiling. I
I
don't know
kind
how
of
much
miss
more
it.
excited I could get and keep it, within the ratings that we're trying to stay within.
Which is one mother and maybe
That's
one
right.
other fan. Okay. You know, I found out that we do have other listeners at a recent conference. So I don't know how many of them are, but there's at least two. So we've doubled. We've seen an increase of listenership of 100% at least. So,
I think they're both really smart.
well, yeah, they're getting smarter by the episode, although maybe not this one yet, but they're about to, because I'm going to introduce my guest today. This is Scott Oklin, sorry, from Visit Anaheim. Scott, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy to be here. Maybe I grew your listenership by 200%. So you've got me on.
Wow, that'd be pretty impressive.
It's amazing.
We appreciate it. That's really what we're doing. We're building this audience one person at a time. So when we have you on
One
as a
guest at a
guest,
time.
we bring you on as a guest, and then you become an audience member. So it's like a slow burn, but we're going to get there eventually. We'll have everyone in the DMO world listening to this show.
Love
That's
it.
the goal, at
Yeah,
least.
love it.
Sounds like a sound strategy, right? I probably need to hire Brand Revolt to help me with my content strategy. I don't know.
There's some people we just can't help, Stuart.
You're revolting and I'm helpless. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
that's pretty true. So are we ready? Are we going to drum
Let's do
roll?
it.
We're gonna do the number one segment in all of destination marketing. It's Stu's News.
It's Stu, Galaxy 2, Stu, News.
Yeah, Scott seems to like it, Stuart. I just want to throw that out there.
Always something new.
Adam
Stu, News, what are you?
Oh, it went again. There we
Every
go.
time you
Every
restart
time.
it.
I keep
Every
trying to
time.
end it and it plays again.
Now I'm just going to throw it out there. If there's anyone listening that wants to have a stab at a better jingle, like we're totally open to that. Like this is a community, and if you are offended by this jingle like I am, then feel free to go and create your own and submit it. And who
That's
knows?
actually such a good point, Stuart, because I'm not willing to take the time and do the work to make another one. And so if an
Yeah.
audience member decides to do that, then I would be more than willing to replace the current jingle.
Yeah. You know what we should do is we should have the guest bring a jingle each time. That should be the gift to us.
We
for
can
being
start
the
on that
show.
with the next
Yeah.
episode.
Next one.
Yeah, what do you got, Scott?
Yeah. And you have to live perform it too, Scott. So that would be good.
That's one way to reduce listenership, Stuart.
That's funny. I just set off my ALEXA for some reason. Alexa, cancel. That's ridiculous. So Stu's News. So we are recording this a couple of days after the inaugural Destination Professionals Day, which, I got to be honest, I had mixed feelings when DI announced this thing, right? I first went through an emotion of this seems a little self-indulgent and a little self-aggrandizing. But then I dug into the why. I started reading the press releases and looking at their collateral, and I started to get it. I'm like, okay, this makes sense. This is a good way for us to showcase the value that destination marketers and destination organizations provide to the community, and that it's a great career path, right? It's some of the best people in the world are in this industry, and so I'm like, okay, I got behind it, and then I started talking to our team about it, and we did the sort of bog standard thing that a lot of DMOs did, using the toolkit and putting out some propaganda out there and press releases or whatnot in the obligatory LinkedIn post. So I'd say we sort of mailed it in like most DMOs did. But I came across this YouTube video and this article, and so I want to give a shout out to Discover Monroe, West Monroe. And they got a really good piece in their local Fox affiliate that just did like a 3-minute video on what the DMO is, what Destination Professionals Day was, and what value the DMO provides to the industry. And so I'm like, oh shoot, this was obviously a missed opportunity for me at Visit Beach to again relay the quality of life message to our residents and to our businesses. And so I just wanted to do a tip of the hat to Visit Monroe, West Monroe, because I thought they capitalized on this opportunity. And to me, now we're going to treat it more like we treat NTTW and other events, because it is an opportunity to give us a reason to reach out to the media and have them tell our story. So I don't know, Adam, you want to react to this?
Yeah, I mean, from a local media perspective, I think some of us have a tendency to almost neglect or even take that media for granted, because sometimes when we reach out with stories, the answer is, well, I don't know that that's necessarily newsworthy. But the good news with something like this is Destination Professionals Day kind of creates a great excuse for newsworthiness. And going back to the New Year's resolutions that we talked about a few episodes ago, I think it's very important that destinations make their local residents and stakeholders a target persona that they specifically and intentionally message to. And I think this is a great opportunity to do so. So if I was in a destination and planning for next year, what I would do is make this one of my kind of key local public relations pillars, where I know that I'm going to have an intentional strategy to get media coverage locally about the impact that we're having on the community. And I hope more destinations follow Discover Monroe, West Monroe's lead on this, because I think they did an incredible job of making sure that they maximize the opportunity.
Yeah. Scott, what about you? What's your take?
Yeah, Adam, I want to piggyback off of something that you just said there, because I think for us at Visit Anaheim, this is the first year that we're going to actually be conducting some resident surveying, and we're going to be doing this year over year. So, Adam, to your point, I think it's a really interesting way to get more people understanding the power of what we do. And, from my perspective, I talk to friends, family members that have no clue. They're like, you work where and do what?
A DM what?
Like from an educational standpoint, and just letting people both locally and, wherever they might be, understand the power of what this industry is all about. I think that this was done in a very intentional way that can carry power. And I think every year you just continue to learn and tweak from it. So it's the start of something cool.
Yeah, this whole concept of marketing the marketing and showcasing the value you drive to your residents and to your community it's a hot topic. There were actually at DI recently at the Marcom, there were two sessions with that title, marketing the marketing, right? And so one was a presentation and one was more of a roundtable. And I participated in the roundtable, and it was peer-to-peer discussion, and it was really interesting because you heard tactics from different groups that you could all learn from. And one of the biggest insights, and I wish I could remember who said it and which destination it was, but I can't give them credit because I can't remember, because I'm old and my brain doesn't work as well as it used to. But that they talked about how to engage the media. And so we make the mistake, and a lot do, of you looking at the media as a microphone or a megaphone for our information. Like when we want to tell people stuff, we go to the media and say, here's a press release or here's a story, please tell your audience about it. But we don't really engage the media as much. At least we don't in Visit Myrtle Beach, and most destinations don't engage the media as much in the why behind it, or the foundational work, or the research. And it's like, it's obvious that we should. Like if you're doing say a stewardship plan or a strategic vision for your organization or for your destination, and you're including residents and other folks, bring the media to the table in the planning, because now they're not only educated, but they're stakeholders in telling that story. And you're going to have a lot more likelihood when you do need them to tell a story, one, that they're going to do it, but two, they're going to do it right, and they're going to actually use the right terminology and the narrative that you're looking to. So we're really trying to shift the way we're thinking about how we engage with the media, and I would encourage others to do the same. But
Let me ask a question on that, Stuart. So we've seen at least this example that the model works. If we create a national holiday around destination professionals, it'll create some newsworthiness that allows us to get in front of the local media. Is this a model that would make sense in a local community to pick out historical days or markers or anniversaries that would match up with a tourism message, allowing us to stay top of mind throughout the year on a variety of different days, and work with the mayor or local legislators or whoever it is to memorialize those days, and thus giving us more opportunity to be in front of our stakeholders?
Yeah, I think any hook you can get, right? The reality is most newsrooms, whether that be print or radio or TV, they've been gutted, right? They don't have as many journalists as they did. They're a lot less experienced than they were, and there's a lot more turnover, and so they're always looking to be helped to tell the right story. And so what we found is you can spoon feed more than you used to. It used to be you'd give the kernel of an idea and they would flesh out the full story. But what we're finding out is if you hand deliver something that's well thought out and packaged, but isn't self-serving, it's actually valuable for them to tell to their audience. That a lot of times they're just regurgitating it verbatim. And so I do think there's opportunity for you to think strategically throughout the year. And I do think you need a annual calendar to be proactive, because all too often we're reactive and we're saying, oh, we got this thing, we need to talk about it. We got, oh, this thing just happened, we need to talk about it. Or we're being defensive and we're responding to, maybe it's like inquiries about Canadians not traveling to the US right now, right? And so we're on the defensive and we're trying to mitigate our risk. So I think going on the offense with a strategic annual calendar, and I also think there should be budget allocated to paid promotion throughout the year in your market too. And that, you know, you have to navigate restricted dollars and unrestricted dollars and things to be in compliance with whatever your regulations are. But we should be constantly talking to our residents in our community. And one way is direct through paid media. The other is through earned media, through local newspapers and TV and radio. Yeah.
I'll jump in there too. I think media is one outlet for it. I think the other piece is like really getting out into the community. Stuart, you hit on like that self-serving message, right? Like I think people see through that component pretty quickly. And one of the things that I think is really impactful that I've seen is workforce development, right? Like getting out into schools and into the community itself, where it becomes a little bit more of an organic story that gets picked up rather than perhaps something that is scheduled and can be viewed from that self-serving mechanism. So I just wanted to throw that in there too.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Scott. Do you have someone in your organization that's their responsibility, that's like a community facing resource?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so we've had that in place for quite some time, and our workforce development program is rather robust, and it's a lot of fun because we're pulling in folks in the organization to actually go and lend their expertise at these schools. So one of our team members, who's our creative in-house, is actually going out and talking about what it meant to and how she pursued that career, right? So and then, you know, the next time down, you're talking to a salesperson, right? So you're able to really kind of show the breadth of this. Isn't only marketing, there's PR to it, there's creative behind it, there's sales. So I think that's been something that's been wildly successful and really ingratiating ourselves in the community.
That's neat. Yeah, we're just adding that. We've had a couple of community facing roles, but they've had specific like advocacy to really dealing with elected officials. But we just literally this week we've just hired a person whose job is to liaise with the community, and specifically residents, but also civic organizations and other folks as well. Because if our mission is to improve the quality of life for our residents, we have to be listening and having a constant conversation with them. And so we just added that resource. And you know, we're not a new DMO. We've been around for a while, but we didn't have it until this week. So we're excited.
Yeah, his job is, as Stuart starts fires, he follows along and puts them out behind him.
Yeah. I try not to start too many fires. But Scott, before we jump into the topic that you brought, which is an interesting one, it's a conversation we haven't had on this show before. I want to just take a little step into your journey, because you did the same as me. You came from the vendor side to the DMO side, and that's unusual, right? Typically it goes the other way. And so I want to ask you how that's been. You've been in the role as CMO of Visit Anaheim for about 6 months now. Is that right?
Yeah. It's hard to believe 6 months have gone by.
So how's that journey been? Were there surprises? Were there things coming from the vendor side that just really surprised you coming on into the DMO?
I wouldn't say that there was any like monster in the closet, but definitely, you know, surprises along the way. I think the impetus behind the move for me, I spent 10 years at Travel Zoo and loved every minute of it. For me, the real excitement came from being able to own a 360-degree strategy and solution for a DMO that I previously had been a smaller chunk to. And
Yeah.
so for me, it was really coming in and immersing myself in the destination, living and breathing it, and then really understanding how the organization was operating, because that to me was one of the things that I had worked with so many different DMOs, CVBs, tourism boards across the world that were structured in very different ways. And coming in to Visit Anaheim and understanding how the organization has been structured and where we're looking to take it to, I think that that has been the most fun yet challenging perspective of just coming in from the vendor side into the DMO space.
Yeah.
So
Neat.
yeah, I've got a question I'd love to ask, and I'm going to kind of start by telling just a brief story that when I first bought this business, I was responsible for a lot of the different accounting activities and managing our cash flow and things like that. And over the years, we ended up bringing accounting in-house, and recently just made a change where I suddenly am like diving back in and getting my arms around a lot of that stuff again. And what I'm finding is there's a lot of things that, like, little things, just basic knowledge things that I took for granted along the way that my bookkeeper was managing and things like that. And I kind of liken that to you coming into the destination side, that I think there's a lot of things for people who haven't been in the private sector for a long time may not see what's happening, or take for granted what's happening on the other side of that perceived veil, right? And so I'm curious, Scott, as you got on the other side of it, what has been illuminated for you that maybe DMOs need to know about the vendor side?
That's a good question. I would say the biggest thing that I would love for DMOs to understand more robustly about the vendors is where they fit in, where they fit into the puzzle piece, and not necessarily the thing that I think I was consistently up against at Travelzoo was being pigeonholed into a bucket of only one thing. And now being in this role with Visit Anaheim, understanding that some of the preconceived notions that I might have about different vendors or different partners might not be as holistic and well-rounded as it needs to be. And really, I think having myself and the team fully wrap our heads around the value props that some of these outside parties can bring to the table. And Adam, like you hit on, being able to wrap your head around some accounting practices, like that to me too is the same thing on the DMO space. Who can help you? Who has a level of expertise that maybe you don't have in-house and that you can leverage in ways that you never thought of if you just gave that vendor a little bit more time and a seat at the table.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I see the same problem from my vantage point too, Scott. And it's, there's a couple of challenges, right? One, we're trying to do a lot with limited resources, all of us, right? And so time is probably our biggest limitation. Money is too, but time is probably our biggest limitation. And so investing the time in paying attention to the details of every vendor and what they fully offer, because there's a lot of vendors that do a lot of things. And I would say in this industry, it's very cluttered because there's a lot of vendors that do just one thing. And then there's a lot that do one thing really well, and then they do a few little peripheral things. There's very few sort of full stack solutions, and the ones that exist are very monolithic and archaic in a lot of ways. They're not like the bleeding edge of things. And so there's always like bright and shiny things coming along for us. And it's hard to know when it's appropriate to dedicate your attention to it. And then it's even harder to say when is it time to stop paying attention to it, because you could sort of go down a rabbit hole with most vendors, and there's hundreds in the space. It's I don't know. I know Adam has talked about this before, and I almost wonder if we need some consolidation in the space to make the ecosystem a little more coherent for DMOs and CMOs. I cannot tell you how many emails I get a day, unsolicited sales pitches from media providers or software providers or other stuff, and it's relentless. And so I've had to sort of create a heuristic to filter these and not give them the attention they probably all deserve. And I know that some good things slip through the cracks because of that, and it's not ideal, but I haven't found a solution. Like I've tried scheduling. Okay, this 2 hours a week, I'm going to look at vendors or something like that, and I inevitably get out of the habit because other more pressing things. So that, coupled with our lack of risk taking in our industry, I think has created this inertia of We're going to do what's familiar to us, or we're going to do what our other buddy at another DMO has done because we know that's safe too. But we're not really taking risk in terms of trying new things on a regular basis or in a systematic way. And so I don't have a solution. It's just more of
Yeah.
a agreement with what you just mentioned.
Yeah, and I think I'd add to that also, coming into it with almost knowing what your strategy is high level and what you're looking to achieve throughout a certain time frame, whether that's the next quarter, the next year, the next 2 years, and thinking outside the box, right? And then going out and sometimes going to seek out those vendors. Like we're getting ready. We're going to be launching an amazing trade show booth at IPW this year. And there's some assets within that trade show booth. If you're going to IPW, please stop by, because it is going to be something that I've never seen on a show floor before. But to your point, Stuart, and to Adam's point that I know that you've made previously, that means that we needed to step outside of our comfort zone and work with somebody who was able to develop digital assets that we had none of that would fit within the specs and parameters of this. And that was a really fun project for our team internally because they never thought like that before. They never had a reason to. So yeah, I think there's a certain amount of risk taking and breaking things that entered into the equation out of necessity. In that case, that was an interesting exercise for us.
And Scott, I'd love to ask you the question going back the other direction. What do vendors need to know that you discovered when you got on the other side that might be helpful for them to be better partners?
Stuart just
Don't give all of our secrets.
Yeah,
away,
the big Stuart, you already said that there are way too many emails in our inbox, and that there was a vendor that reached out to me and did an incredible amount of research that. And I'm coming biased into the conversation, right? But
Sure.
I noticed that it was not a cookie cutter cold, that there was thought behind it and that there was a reason for what it was. And that made all the difference in the world to me. And I carved out time for that call, and there ended up being some fruits of that labor on both ends. So I think it's being thoughtful in your outreach rather than looking at a volume play.
Yeah, treat us like individuals with individual problems. Don't just spam us. And I said this. I was on stage at DI a couple of weeks ago, and I told people we're talking about AI, and there's so many emails I get now that are clearly just a Chat GPT generated thing, and I will literally delete it straight away. I won't even read it if it just sounds like it's AI written. But I got to tell you, I got one today from a vendor that clearly used GPT, but was creative with it. So they've done their research. They found out I'm a Star Wars nerd. And the subject line was, this email's written in the style of Yoda. And the whole pitch was done with like the backwards wording of Yoda, and even had like little and stuff like that in it. So it was really good. It wasn't a vendor that I needed right now, but I took the time to respond to them and say, I really appreciate, I gave them golf clap, tell them I really appreciated the novelty of it. And, if I ever need that service, I will definitely reach out to that person.
I love that.
That's very creative. And I'll tell you an experience I had. This really ultimately led to the sale of our agency. There was we did software for hotels, and we did booking engine software, and we needed to get an integration with a specific property management system that would not return our calls. And so I did some deep search on who worked there below the top level, and I found like the lead developer who'd been there forever, and I saw he was a huge Star Wars fan. And I did the same thing that this person did to me, so I'm hoisted by my own petard a little bit. I wrote an email to them, and it was
it must be a good idea.
It was help me Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope kind of style, but I put their name in it. And I got a call back from the CEO the next day, and he said, listen, you guys have been trying to get in front of us for a long time, but we're finally going to listen to you now. So sometimes you need to keep trying with CMOs, but you've got to break through the noise. There's so much noise. You've got to break through and be creative. Everyone watching this as a vendor, don't just hit me up with Star Wars. That's lazy.
Yeah,
you got to be creative.
Open the floodgates.
No, it is my Achilles heel, but be a little more creative than that. Learn about us. Learn about our brand. Learn about what we're doing. Actually pay interest in us. You're trying to date us. You got to show that you're going to put some effort in when you're dating us, because if you don't, I know when we get married, you're not going to put the effort in. So,
call me back, you will.
Is that your Yoda impression?
That's it. I couldn't do the voice. I couldn't commit. I don't know why.
That's you're too scared. I mean,
I was worried it would
two
sound like
audience
Kermit the
members.
Frog.
Your mom wouldn't appreciate it listening.
Yeah.
All right, so we spent half the episode not talking about the topic. So let's jump into the topic, right? So this is one when we always, when we have a guest that's interesting coming on the show, sometimes they come with it with a specific topic. Sometimes we just like the guest and like their thought process and say, hey, let's think about this. And you came to us with this topic, Scott, and I'd love for you to tell the audience what the topic is, why you think it's an interesting conversation, and then we'll dig into it.
Yeah,
Floor
thanks. So the topic is all about luxury travel and how I think that has evolved and transcended. It's a topic of conversation for us here in-house at Visit Anaheim. It's a topic of conversation I've had with a number of colleagues around the country. And I think that it's a fascinating exercise that we've gone through as an organization to understand how the profile of the luxury traveler has evolved and shifted. And so I'll use that as kind of the backdrop. I think for us at Visit Anaheim, we've really embraced this idea of shifting the narrative from opulence, from over the water bungalows and butler service and all of the bells and whistles that maybe come with what previously was your initial reaction of maybe what luxury travel might entail, and shifting it from opulence into authenticity and into experiences. And that's a whole rabbit hole that we can go down. But I think it's really the idea of connecting with family, both, multi-gen families, with kids, with elderly, and connecting generations through that. So I think that's kind of where we've been continuing to evolve our thoughts as an organization here. And lots to unpack with that, but I think that's probably a good starter. Would love maybe for both of you to weigh in on maybe how you have viewed luxury travel in the past, and and where you kind of think it's trending towards.
Yeah, Adam, you want to have a shot at that?
Yeah, I mean, I actually would like to start with a question, if that's okay, Scott. I want to understand, especially for other destinations that are listening, where have we gotten it wrong with luxury travel? Like, and you mentioned briefly, okay, it's not an overwater bungalow, but you eliminated the Maldives and Jamaica, I think, and Fiji, right? And so, like, outside of those three destinations, where have we gotten it wrong with luxury travel?
I don't know if wrong is the right word. I think it is more of a matter of shifting priorities as individuals and as travelers, and where people's interests ultimately lie. I think wellness has entered into the conversation in a big way for what it means to have a luxury vacation. I think for me growing up, and I grew up in Pittsburgh in blizzards and snowstorms, and the idea of luxury to me was sitting on a beach chair, right, with the ocean coming up on me and a drink next to me. So I think that was always kind of what my vision of it was, based on where I was growing up and what I kind of experienced through harsh winters. And so I think it's just watching the conversation evolve and watching trends start to shift. It's giving destinations who might not previously have been thought of as a luxury place to visit the opportunity to create that experience. So that would be kind of
Yeah.
my overarching thought to that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
my reaction to that would be that what we used to think of as luxury travel involved probably a couple of very gray-haired individuals, right? That aren't going to do a whole lot on the trip, and they just want to sit around the resort and relax. And I think for a variety of reasons, the luxury traveler has gotten younger in a lot of ways, and that means that luxury goes beyond the resort. They're usually looking for an adventure of some type, and this isn't for everybody, but at the same time, they're looking for yoga on the beach, or the type of luxury activities that might feel luxury but also go beyond the resort. And I think the last thing I'll say is I think that the trend of younger people not investing in purchasing a home, which I think has happened over the last 5 years especially, has resulted in some of that budget shifting to luxury travel, which means you have a whole new category of luxury travelers that you need to account for. And so I agree with you. I think the profile of the luxury traveler has changed a lot, and not a lot of us have crafted those experiences that kind of catch up with that change.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think the data that we look at suggests that people are looking to spend more on travel over the next year or two than they have in the previous year or two when they have the means, but they're not necessarily investing in the accommodation, right? They're looking to have, to your point, more experiences. And it could be shifts like, you said it's not like necessarily having a private chef, but going to an experience with a chef that's cooking a meal for you, like in a educational format or something like that. We've seen those kind of things pop up in our destination. And Myrtle Beach is definitely not somewhere that would be considered top of the list when you talk about luxury travel. We don't have a 5-diamond hotel. We got few 4-diamond, right? We're very good in the upper 3-diamond area. That's sort of our sweet spot. But you can have luxurious experiences here, and it's more about self-indulgence than it is, the opulence, I think. And one of the ways we articulate it here is somewhere like Charleston, which is 2 hours to the south of us, is a little fancier, right? But there's a in any destination that's a little fancier, there's a little more of a pretentiousness at times, or an inaccessibility to it, because it's a little more exclusive. And so we use phrases like, instead of fine dining here, it's feeling fine dining, right? It's about the core of you and the warmth and the heart. And so you can have a very positive, luxurious experience here, but it's at the same time, it's accessible to everyone. There's no barriers to entry. And so whereas some experiences can be intimidating, like not everyone's going to walk into a Ritz-Carlton and enjoy that level of high touch. You can still have a luxurious experience that is right for you and where your comfort level is. And so I think, to me, that's where luxury is going. It's about individualized experiences based on your specific preferences and customizing it to that. So that's just my take. And I'm not someone that's really ever experienced luxury travel. It wasn't in my wheelhouse growing up, and it's not something I've sought out because it feels inaccessible to me. It's intimidating to me. So I'm talking a little bit from first person perspective.
No, Stuart, I think you hit on the nail on the head. It's the way it was great. We were having a conversation, myself and our social media team, and we were talking with some folks who had visited Anaheim. They did some partnerships with us, and they very clearly laid out to us that luxury to them meant that they were within walking distance to Disney, so that they could walk back to the hotel, put the kids down for a nap, and then go back.
Mm-hmm.
That was how they defined luxury, right? So
yeah,
I think
convenience is a piece of their luxury, right?
Big time. Yeah, big time. And
Yep.
so I think the way that we started to think about it was, you can turn people off, to your exact point, on if you make things feel uncomfortable to something that they otherwise would want to experience. And so one of the stories one of the members of our team was tossing around was, how do we tell an authentic story, right? And maybe that is a multi-gen family who is enjoying the pool. They're having a great day. The grandparents put the kids down to sleep, and the parents go out for a date night together. It doesn't matter where the parents go out to. That was a luxury experience. They had somebody put the kid. So I think, just by sheer definition, it opens up the door to allow for the luxury traveler to be a wider array of the demographic and the audience that you're able to tap into, and that messaging can follow as a result of it.
Yeah, have you guys seen that in New York, there's a new service that's opened up where former policemen and military individuals they're basically hired as drivers, but also as bodyguards. So when people go to New York or some other major markets, there's women who are hiring these bodyguard drivers to take them around. I've seen several social media videos about it. And that's a great example of, that's a whole new category of a possible luxury experience add-on that a lot of us haven't even considered, but that definitely would fall in the category.
Yeah, I got another example. I'm going to do a shameless plug for Traveling the Spectrum. Season 1 now streaming on Peacock, which you should go check out if you haven't.
Tune in.
But in the final episode, and I'm not going to sort of ruin there's no real spoilers here, but in the final episode, there's a scene where one of the families, the kids, and this, you inspired me to think about this, Scott, with what you said. The kids organized a date for the parents to go, and they just went down as they were. They didn't have to dress up to the nines. They were just in their t-shirts and the shorts. But the kids had they'd organized a spread, a little picnic on the beach, sitting there with your feet in the sand, and they were eating food that they wouldn't usually eat, and the wife had a glass of wine and the dad had a beer, and she at one point she looked at the husband and said, "We don't do this. This is crazy. This is insane." To them, that was luxury at that point, because it was there was a novelty to it, but it was a feeling good in the moment kind of an experience that was luxurious to them. And some people would look at that and not see it as a luxury, but to them it was at that moment. And it's a really heartwarming moment when these parents that deserved a break from the kids and the hubbub and dealing with all the stress, they got to just connect with each other one-on-one. And it was a beautiful moment. So go check it out, Traveling the Spectrum.
You're raising an interesting point there, though, Stuart, because you're basically saying that instead of a blanket definition of luxury that applies to everyone, how do you help every type of traveler feel like they're having their definition of a luxury experience? And because I don't know, as this conversation's evolving, I'm kind of feeling like I understand less about what luxury travel is than it did when we started. Not because we've gone down weird directions, but just because I think when you make an individual feel special, that's luxury travel to them.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
I think it's, and I'm sure you guys have come across this concept. It's in my eyes, it's uncompromised hospitality, right? It's like that idea that you can't be treated this way anywhere else, right? And maybe that's the destination bringing it to life. Maybe it's the destination providing your family with the canvas to provide that experience for you. But I think it's the idea of uncompromised hospitality in my mind, that it opens up a very wide definition, because that can be a lot of things to a lot of people. But Stuart, to your example, right? Like that couple will never probably forget that experience of dining together, right? Like, and in my view as well, right? Like that's a luxurious experience and a timeless thing that they'll ever kind of forever hold to their heart. So that's, if we had to maybe use two words to define it, that might be my two, is uncompromised hospitality.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And we'll probably get detractors saying, no, what we're trying to do is force luxury in to mean something else, and maybe we are, right. I think that could be a fair criticism, but I think what we're saying is, or what I'm hearing is, consumers' expectations are changing, and their demands are changing and evolving, and something like we perceived as luxurious 5 years or 10 years or 50 years ago is not the same today as it was, and it won't be the same in 5 or 10 years. And almost the semantics of the word luxury don't matter when we get back to the root of what we're in the business for, which is creating these magical moments and memories for people through travel. And I think you're right, Scott. I think it is about getting back to the heart of hospitality, in being uncompromising in that, and treating people like individuals, not like a user or a visitor to a website or an email address or something like that. But we've strived for a long time at Visit Myrtle Beach to start talking to customers as an audience of one. Like what is and learning from them and having a real conversation, versus us promoting to them and then maybe responding. Us really beginning to have a conversation and build a relationship with an individual, so we can learn about what they need. Because luxury isn't just about the experience; it's also about the planning. It's about can we surprise and delight them through the planning process, so that they're already primed to have a better experience when they arrive here? Can we treat them kindly and with education and value through the anticipation phase of the journey, so that when we know they've booked and they haven't arrived yet, we can build up the experience in their minds even more? Can we celebrate the wins afterwards and the memories, and share the memories afterwards? That's all part of the experience. And I think that adds to, in my mind, what we're talking about here in this broad term of luxury. So maybe we've changed what luxury means. I don't know, but I think it's a good conversation.
Yeah, it's the personalization, I think, is a big piece to that, right? Everybody wants to be the hero of their own movie, and when you're able to talk to somebody as a party of one, it evokes a different emotion for them, rather than feeling like part of a herd.
Yeah.
So, like
when they feel heard, when they feel like they're respected, when they feel like what they're receiving is valuable to them and unique to them. I think that's a whole different level of hospitality, and
Yeah.
that's
I'm
what we're striving for.
amused. Yeah, I'm amused by where this has gone, because what we've actually done is we've landed that the same way vendors should reach out to you guys in order to get an opportunity to chat with you is the same exact type of experience that we need to offer as a luxury experience to the individuals that are coming to the destination. And for some reason, I just get a big kick out of that.
That's funny. Good. I mean, really, Scott and I were in cahoots before this. We were just, this whole episode was designed to get vendors to treat us with more respect, to give us a more luxurious experience. And so hopefully, Adam, you'll treat us appropriately. And other vendors that are trying to sell to
Scott
us
for
will
sure.
do the same.
Scott for sure.
But people are people, right? People want to be treated like individuals, and they wanted to be treated with respect and understanding and empathy, and that's what we're talking about, you know. And travel is such a magical thing that people invest a lot of money into, but it's one of the most rewarding things you can invest money into, and we can make that investment even more worthwhile and encourage people to come back to our destination or travel to another destination because of the luxurious nature of the experience we give them. So I love it.
And I'm just thinking out loud as because in an effort to not pull back from what luxury means at a Ritz, at a Four Seasons, on a yacht, right? Like, I think that it's the idea, maybe what we're ultimately kind of summarizing and talking about here is that we want people to feel special, right? Like, in calling that a luxury experience in and of itself evokes something that makes them feel unique. It doesn't take away from that Michelin star dinner on the rooftop of a 5-star hotel. That always can and will be a luxury experience in and of itself. But perhaps it's the way that we're framing the experience as luxury to a different that might not have the same price tag attached.
Yeah, luxury is subjective, right? It depends on who the visitor is. I mean, my wife and I have gone to dinner at a couple of places where it's like, this is too luxurious for us. We don't belong here type thing, right? Like, there, especially in Park City, we went and spent an anniversary, and we got the check, and we looked at the check, and we looked at each other and said, never again. You know, because it didn't feel like us, right? And so I think luxury is going to feel different to everyone, but that brings me to a tactical question for the people that are listening is, how do you identify who the visitors are and provide a subjective luxury experience for each individual traveler? I think at a high level and at a philosophical level, that sounds great. But at a tactical level, how do you actually do that when you don't even control the entire experience as a DMO?
Yeah, but it starts online. I think it starts with the online experience, right? I think you've got to make sure that we as DMOs are collecting in an organic, natural, conversational way signals that tell us a little bit more about the person. Like, we did a lot of work this year really analyzing how consumers are using our website. You know, we did some focus groups and panels, and we used technology to view how people, and we had an insight that it's so stupidly obvious and glaring that it shocks me that we hadn't thought about it before, but we hadn't. And that was, and I got to give full credit to Sarah Peter, who was on this show with No Luggage. She was on one of our early episodes. She was the one that really bubbled this up to the surface because she did a lot of our research for us. But we have, you know, Myrtle Beach is known as a family-friendly destination, and we have tremendous amounts of content labeled family-friendly hotels, family-friendly attractions, family-friendly restaurants, family-friendly. Well, what does that mean to anyone? Like, if I have a 6-year-old, what I'm looking for is very different than if I've got a 12-year-old or a 17-year-old, right? Those are all families. Well, what if the grandparents are traveling with me too? What is this multi-generation? So this phrase that we've all latched onto as an industry, which is family-friendly, really has become so meaningless to everyone that it's not valuable anymore. So we're really doing a lot of work behind the scenes to compartmentalize all our content and structure so that we can serve the right. And we're going to ask people, like, who's traveling with you when you come to the site, and that's going to determine your entire experience. Now, that's a more luxurious experience online. But now then your question is, how do we translate that to the real world? And I think that's where hospitality comes in. I used to work with a hotel in Mexico, and they were a small hotel, so that this probably couldn't scale, but they would do research on every guest before they came. They'd find their photos online, they'd find out what they liked and disliked, and they would every staff member would have to look at their photo and memorize them before they arrived. And so every guest was welcomed by name by every staff member whenever they went by them. And it was just a magical experience and it wasn't a particularly high-end property, but it just felt luxurious because you were treated as an individual from the minute you stepped on property. So there are ways to do it.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see, Scott, what you guys have up your sleeves in terms of the future of luxury travel and how you're going to promote that. I've got a campaign for you. This is really awesome. This is on the spot. It just came up in my head as we're talking. I think it should be luxurious. So you put your in the middle. So it's yours. So
You're gonna give that to me, or are
luxury.
you gonna keep
Yeah,
that?
you can have it. I'll let you have it.
I
So
like
Don't fight over it, guys.
luxury, you know?
it's
It sells itself.
funny. We went through right before I started here at Visit Anaheim. They just kicked off. It was called the Greatest Luxury of All campaign. It was the very first time Anaheim really went into the luxury space, and that definitely lent itself to some great takeaways as we kind of enter into what we're deeming to be phase 2 right now of those efforts. And really, I think a lot of what we've just talked about was a lot of the feedback that we gained from that is the experience in and of itself. You can talk about a VIP experience at Disney, right? But how accessible is that to most people that are going to Disney? So yeah, tons of takeaways and lots of different targeting that'll come into the picture as a result of that.
We'd love to have you back on the show and share some of those results and the insights
sure.
you gain along the way. But
Sure.
you've definitely got me thinking a little differently about luxury. Luxury is a segment that I really haven't spent any time thinking about because, you know, Myrtle Beach isn't considered a luxury destination, but maybe it is. You know, maybe I've been looking at it wrong. So I appreciate you coming on the Discourse Challenge and making us think a little bit differently. You did a great job today.
As long as you didn't make me sing a jingle, I'll well in the world. So
Next time.
Well, next time, yeah, next time we'll definitely make you do that. Scott, if
I
they want
appreciate
to,
you guys.
find you online, if they want to reach out, if the vendors want to hit you up with a luxurious intro email, how would they do that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, LinkedIn's best for me. Feel free. I'll always welcome conversations across all avenues. So I appreciate you guys
That's
having me today.
And Scott's last name is spelled Oklin, so Scott Oklin. So
He's making
hit
sure
him
you
up.
get hit up.
Yeah. His thing, the more they hit him up, the less they're hitting me up.
No,
So
I'm just gonna
that's
say
how
you can
I-
reach me at, and then I'll put Stuart's email.
Stuart Butler, yeah. I give out my email on this show. I probably shouldn't, but
No.
you know. Adam, any final thoughts for you before we leave, and where can they find you?
No, I think it's been really fun, Scott. I'd actually love to continue this conversation at another time because I don't know. I think I luxury is more subjective than I thought it was coming into the conversation. I think that's one of the takeaways for me. If people want to reach out to me, it's Adam Stoker on LinkedIn, or you can find me on Tourism IQ or adam@thebrandrevolt.com.
Great. And you can find me at Stuart Butler on LinkedIn or stuart.butler@visitmyrtlebeach.com. There it is, vendors. Hit me up, but only if you really care about me and treat me luxuriously.
Yoda's used. Find something new.
Yeah, you can't do Star Wars anymore. Star Wars vetoed now. So even though that's an obsession, if you look behind me, you'll find other things I'm interested in other than Star Wars. So just a hint. I'm helping you out here, guys. I'm spoon feeding you.
Manchester City.
Get out of here. So please follow, like, and subscribe this show. That's how we're going to build the audience. We're trying to change the industry. We're trying to be better tomorrow than we were today. And we're really getting some really positive feedback from folks. And it's great. So please tell a friend to listen, even if you don't want to spend the time, all that time it takes to click subscribe or click like. I know that's a lot, but how about just use your mouth holes and go tell a friend about how great this show is, right? Why'd you open your eyes? I said mouth hole. What's wrong with that? You open your eyes, Adam, like that was the
I
problem.
didn't know where you were headed. Wanted to understand where you were headed.
Oh, just talk to people. Tell them about the show. That's all I'm saying. All right. Thanks, everyone. Until next time, this has been Destination Discourse.